Well, folks, it's that time again. It is the morning after a U.S. presidential election. And the last time on this channel that we found ourselves in this position, wasn't feeling too good. It really sucked. There was a lot that went on with the 2020 election that I discussed in depth. And honestly, I'm surprised that this channel did not get completely deleted from YouTube. I did have some videos that were removed by YouTube for being election misinformation. But the channel is still here, and we've moved on. 2020 is over. This is 2024. It is a new era. This is a new age. But I'll say this. Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, they all got between 65 and 67 million votes. Kamala, it looks like, got 67 million votes, thereabouts. Not all the votes are counted yet, so her total's going to go up. Now, she did lose the popular vote to Trump, spoilers, but she's sitting right in that range. Joe Biden, we are told, in 2020, received 81 million votes. I'll just leave it at that, okay? That's... I talked a lot about that at the time, but that's all I'm going to say for now, because I don't want to get this video taken down. Because this is celebration, things went exactly as expected last night, I have to say. There were no surprises. I was hoping that there would be some surprises. I wanted there to be some excitement, but just as the night crawled on, it became clear things were just going exactly as the polls would have shown, 2 weeks ago. Of course, a couple points to the right, but that's to be expected. I factor that in, when I'm looking at the polls. I know, hey, if it's tied, that means Trump's going to win. That sort of a thing. And that is the case. All the states that the polls showed were tied and were, a dead heat, really close. Oh, anybody could win. It could go either way. I know, it's going in Trump's direction. Because that is the way that polling errors always go. And so he has won all those states that were tied by 2 to 3 points. I think maybe the smallest margin I've seen is 1.5. But all these states that were supposedly tied, where either Trump was up by less than 1% or Harris was up by less than 1%, they all went to Trump. And so at the end of the day, he's going to be sitting at 312 electoral votes, which for over a month, that is what the map has looked like. That's what everybody's been expecting who has, been looking at this election with any modicum of objectivity. The 7 swing states, Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, they're all going to Trump. They're all in his column. North Carolina, though, I don't really like calling a swing state because, yes, it is always close, but it's only gone for the Democrat ones. If Romney in 2012 held on to North Carolina, I have trouble calling it a swing state. It swung once in Obama's direction. So did Indiana. Do we call Indiana a swing state? No. Indiana voted for Obama once, and it's always Republican other than that. Same thing with North Carolina. North Carolina voted for Obama in 2008. Okay? That was a big year, 2008, okay? Democrats did really well. But they're not doing that well this year. So I don't even know what Trump's final margin in North Carolina was. It was around 4%, I guess. So actually, pretty decent margin compared to past in North Carolina. Normally, North Carolina is a good bit closer than that. North Carolina and Florida, of course, always had very, very tight margins. And do I even want to get into Florida? Florida was my main focus, early in the night because Florida, we get the results so quick. We're very efficient here counting our ballots ever since DeSantis got elected. Imagine that. And so I was looking at the results here to try and just gauge how well Trump is doing in general. I thought Trump was going to he's going to win Florida by more than 10%. It ended up being correct. He won by way over 10%. He won by 13. Florida ended up being let me put this another way. New York, the state of New York, was a closer election than Florida. I think Harris won New York by 11 or 12. Trump won Florida by 13. So New York is closer to being a swing state at this point than Florida. Now, that's not quite true. This was an inherently pro-Trump environment. The electorate, this was a very pro-Republican year. In a year that's good for Democrats, Florida would be closer than New York. But you see my point. It's remarkable, the margins that we've seen across various states. By the way, Iowa and Ohio, I think Ohio too, but definitely Iowa was also Trump plus 13. But I think Iowa, Ohio, and Florida were all Trump plus 13. Which makes sense. Those are the old three swing states that haven't been swing states since Trump ran in 2016. It used to be Iowa, Ohio, and Florida would decide, the election. When I was growing up, those were the big swing states. Everybody wanted to go to Iowa, Ohio, and Florida during a general election. But, these days, we're basically chopped liver. Nobody pays attention to Iowa, Ohio, or Florida. The Democrats have canceled the Iowa caucuses. Now they've pretty much moved out. They've closed up shop. Democratic Party has given up on Iowa. They don't think it's an important state anymore. The Democratic Party of Florida is a joke. A bunch of incompetent noobs. We saw a lot of big urban counties in Florida go to Trump just as they went to DeSantis and Rubio back in 2022. I was a little sad that Trump couldn't win his own home county of Palm Beach. He lost it by 4,000 votes. Came very close. But I think that was the only county that DeSantis and Rubio won that Trump did not. Other than that, the map looked the same as 2022. Trump won Dade by 10 points. He won Duval, which is where Jacksonville is, won Pinellas, which is St. Petersburg, won Hillsborough, which is Tampa, won Osceola, which is Disney World, after all the wars with Disney World. The Disney workers who live in Osceola County, the Puerto Ricans, by the way, that's what Osceola County is known for. They have a very significant Puerto Rican population that works, in tourism in Orlando. I guess the Kill Tony comments, really didn't move the needle at all, did they? Because Trump had not won Osceola County in either 2016 or 2020, but he did win in 2024. So I won't dwell on Florida anymore because I know most people aren't interested in it since it's not a competitive state anymore. Georgia, I have to say, bravo to the Georgia Republicans who made some moderate reforms to their elections after 2020. You still have Raffensperger, that creep, in charge of the elections. I don't think that he was happy to see Trump win. I know he was not happy to see Trump win in Georgia. But they did a much better job. They were much less of a joke, of a laughingstock. Things in Georgia seemed to progress pretty orderly. The results came in, not fast like Florida, but in an orderly fashion. You didn't see all the urban counties play a bunch of shenanigans where they held back their votes because of a water main break or something like that, or they didn't call it quits and say, "Hey, we'll come back in the morning when we have more fake ballots to count." Georgia, they reported their data, and it came out, and it's like, oh, well, looks like Trump won, and so it was pretty uneventful. North Carolina, same thing, but North Carolina normally doesn't have troubles like this. North Carolina is a pretty professional state. They're not known for shenanigans like some of these other places, Arizona. And we got the results, and it was pretty clear. I think everybody was expecting Trump was going to carry North Carolina. It was a matter of how much, because what was his name? Jason Corley, I think, from Qantas Insights. He coined the phrase last night, I heard, bellwether margins. Essentially, he was saying, hey, if when we get the results from Georgia and North Carolina, if Trump is winning by a certain margin, you should expect him to, Trump has to carry those states. So if, for one thing, if he doesn't win them outright, he's in big trouble because he's not going to win without Georgia and North Carolina. But assuming he does carry them, he needs, depending on what the margin is, we will know how tough of a time he's going to have winning in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, because generally speaking, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin are going to vote to the left of Georgia and North Carolina. That's what we would expect. And so he was forecasting that, okay, well, if Trump wins Georgia and North Carolina and Arizona, but of course Arizona's results are going to come in much later, it's a different time zone, out west, he needed to win by like 3.5% in Georgia and North Carolina. He seems to have cleared that hurdle. And of course, we know now Trump has won Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. The exact margins, not exactly clear. It kept changing throughout the night on those three states. It's somewhere in the neighborhood of like 2.5 in Pennsylvania, all the way up to maybe 4 points in Wisconsin, and Michigan somewhere in between, I think. If I remember correctly, Pennsylvania might actually ended up being the closest of the three, which is strange because typically in the last two elections, Michigan has been, I think, the furthest, the most Democratic. Trump won it by the slimmest margin. Or no, or was it Wisconsin that he won by the slimmest margin in 2016? Anyway, it doesn't really matter. These three states, kind of as expected, they don't really split. They're so close to each other that, things that have to be really, 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 you're really splitting hairs if Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania vote differently from each other. Like, that means that they were all razor thin within less than 10,000 votes. But if you win any of the three by, a fairly comfortable margin, you're going to carry the other two. And that's what happened. Now, Arizona, we don't have final results for yet. Arizona is slow rolling their data. It is basically the same game as 2020. But the good news is that Arizona is like the only place that we are seeing this. If we were seeing these same games in all the states that we saw in 2020, this election would not be over. Trump would not be president. The fact that Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Georgia all had much smoother elections, all reported all their votes and got everything out, and didn't play, stopping in the middle of the night shenanigans. They didn't play, hey, let's go find some last minute Dropbox stuff at midnight. Let's bring in some more ballots through the back door. Because they didn't play those games, we were able to get the results, and Trump didn't even need Arizona by the time we got that far out, which is good. That's a position you want to be in. But it is concerning that there is still any states playing these games. Arizona, last I checked, they're like at 67% of the vote reported. Trump is in the lead. And from what we understand, I think all the early and mail-in stuff got counted first this time, unlike in 2020. And so, as more results come in, things should improve for Trump and for Kari Lake. Kari Lake is currently behind. And it is expected that she's going to lose, but nobody's really called that race yet because there may be as much as 1 million votes I've seen reported that are left to be counted, which is hard to believe in Arizona. And if those are all election day ballots and provisional ballots, those should bode very well for Trump and Kari Lake. And considering the Republican registration advantage in Arizona is now like R+7, it's more than it has been at any point in at least the last couple decades, maybe at any point in this century. If the Republican electorate is more, or if the Arizona electorate is more Republican than ever in, the modern era, you would expect that Republicans would perform at the ballot box better than they ever have in the modern era. And so even though Kari Lake is doing much worse than Trump, if Trump wins by like 8 points, she might be able to make it into the Senate. And that's a 6-year term. So, if she gets in once, it's like, hey, that's, she's got some time to try and build some credibility with the rest of the electorate that didn't vote for her, that split their ticket, that voted for Trump and not for her. And, I understand why people would have issues with her. She's kind of a sycophant. It's a little gross. I do think that she is a much better person than 99% of people in the Senate, or maybe 95%. Maybe there's 5 good senators. There's actually, yeah, maybe not. 5 is probably a little high, but it's in the she's up in the upper 90s. She would be in the top 5 U.S. senators as far as just quality of people go. Even with her issues. Whatever issues I have with Carrie Lake are minor compared with the issues that I'd have with someone like a Mitch McConnell or a John Cornyn. Ugh. So anyway, I wish Arizona would hurry up and count all their damn ballots so that this election can be over. California is also slow walking things, so we don't know on the House quite yet, but it seems that the Republicans are overwhelmingly favored to take the House by a slim margin, so there should be a Republican trifecta in Washington when all is said and done come this January. And so there's a lot there's a lot at stake for a second Trump administration. I will be talking about that as we learn more. I mean, we're hearing little bits and chatter here, a little leak about, apparently Thomas Massie is going to be Secretary of Agriculture. That would be huge. I'm going to be all over talking about Trump cabinet appointments and perhaps the implementation of Project 2025. We can hope, right? But seriously, there's hope. There's some hope. And I want to see, I was very critical of the first Trump administration, but I want to like people. I want him to do a good job. I will call him out if he doesn't, if I think he's doing a shitty job, if I think he's letting these people walk all over him. But I really hope for the best. So anyway, the last state, which has been called for Trump, is Nevada. It looks like the Republican Senate candidate there, Sam Brown, is also going to win. And so when you combine that with the other Republican Senate candidates who are winning, it looks like McCormick is going to win in Pennsylvania. The GOP is going to have like 54 seats in the Senate, which is less than they could have had, because I think they could have had, 57. Because they lost Michigan, Wisconsin, and potentially Arizona. Although Arizona's not completely lost yet, but it looks like it's going that way. So for now, 54, it's not bad, but 57 would have been a lot better. That's almost filibuster proof. You just got to peel off 3 Democrats, and so Nevada, the way things are looking, I don't understand why not every network has called Nevada yet, because mathematically it is impossible for Harris to win it. Trump has clearly won. There's not enough votes left outstanding in Clark County for Harris to take a lead. She's way too far behind. Nye County, it's a little interesting. Nye County, home of Art Bell, the Kingdom of Nye, they were the ones holding out ballots like the Democrats did in all their big urban counties 4 years ago. They were holding out to the end. They said, oh, yeah, we had some kind of clerical error, a glitch. We couldn't report last night. So we're going to report all our votes today after Clark has already, it was already reporting like 95% of all the ballots that they had. So Nye County waited for Clark to put all their cards on the table so that they couldn't pump in a bunch of fake ballots. Very smart. You love to see it. And Nye County, has come in like a big right hook and solidified the lead for both Republican candidates, I believe. Although now I have to double check on Sam Brown. So don't quote me on that, but I'm fairly certain. So anyway, very successful night for Trump and his supporters. I mean, there were a lot of states that were not considered competitive that ended up being quite close, within 5. Minnesota, I think. Well, actually, no. Maine ended up opening up. I think Harris opened up a lead in Maine, but early on she wasn't looking good in Maine. But Minnesota, New Jersey, New Mexico, and Virginia. I mean, New Jersey, of all things. Even Connecticut was within 10, although Connecticut can do that sometimes. A very interesting anecdote from a county in South Texas on the Mexico border, Starr County. It is 96% Latino. It voted for Hillary Clinton by over 60 points in 2016. Trump this year won Starr County by 16 points. So it's a 76-point swing in a 96% Latino county that a Republican has not carried since 1892. And, I almost skipped over Nevada, without really appreciating that is the first time a Republican has carried Nevada in 20 years. Nevada's been trending in that direction the last couple cycles, so I was highly anticipating. I'm like, oh, come on, Nevada has to flip this time, in this kind of environment. And it did. So I'm not shocked. But, a lot of people, hey, first time in 20 years, that's a long time. Just like when Trump flipped Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, that was the first time that any of those states had gone for Republicans since 88. In 88, I believe Dukakis won one of those three. I can't remember if it was Michigan or Wisconsin. I'm leaning towards Wisconsin because, Michigan traditionally was the more Republican. Michigan had a strong Rockefeller Republican base to it. If those of you who are old enough, much older than me, will remember George Romney, father of Mitt Romney, who was the governor of Michigan. Mitt Romney's family originally from Michigan via Mexico, I guess. I think George Romney was actually born in Mexico. But that might have been because of Mormon missionary work. But then you had Mitt Romney's niece, Rona Romney, who was also from Michigan, the terrible, terrible chairman of the Republican Party for far too long. Thank God she's finally gone. I'm not at all confident that this election would have gone this way had she still been RNC chairwoman, but thankfully we don't have to worry about that, because it didn't happen. But anyway, I think I'll leave it there for now. There's so much left to say about what comes next, but that's what happened last night. Things are looking up, and I'm finally I've been so discouraged this year, with this channel. I just haven't wanted to talk about politics at all. There's been nothing positive to talk about. It's all sucked. It's been really boring. Even the campaign. It was a presidential election year. Didn't feel like talking about any of it. It was not exciting. It was friggin' Joe Biden and Donald Trump again. Joe Biden on death's door. Trump was, for the earlier parts of the campaign, pretty low energy. Low energy by Trump standards, let's be clear. I didn't feel like there was really a lot going on, but really Trump hit his stride going in, after Kamala, after he got shot. That was really the turning point. I don't want to say it's a good thing that Trump got shot. It's not. It was really bad, but I think it woke him up, and it woke up a lot of other people, and completely changed the course of this election. So with that said, I'll see you folks back here in the next one.